We find out how much that cost of living adjustment will be. And 10 Tampa Bay's Jenny Dean joins us now with what experts are predicting. Good morning, Jenny.
Yeah, good morning. In just a couple of hours, the Social Security Administration expected to make this announcement. And because of inflation hitting that 40-year high, it's expected to be the biggest increase since 1981. According to the advocacy group Senior Citizens League, payments are expected to be 8.7% higher. And that would translate into an average of $144 per month.
Stimulus may be sent out. Up to $2,400 in extra relief may be proposed and provided to the low income. The Democrats are pushing for new Social Security changes. Now, Social Security does provide people with an income when they retire or cannot work due to a disability. Those who are retired can typically start receiving Social Security benefits as early as age 62. Recipients could get an even larger $2,400 check a year in benefits. If a new bill is recently introduced to Congress Spoon's approval, something that seniors would no doubt welcome as surging inflation wipes out their annual cost of living increase. The legislation is called the Social Security Expansion Act, and it was introduced by Representatives Peter DeFazio and Bernie Sanders. Under terms of the bill, anybody who is a current Social Security recipient or who will turn 62 in 2023 will receive an extra $200 in each monthly check. Social Security legislation requires a supermajority of 60 senators to pass the Senate, and when the Congress ends on January 3rd, members of the new Congress would actually need to reintroduce any legislation that hasn't even been passed yet. What this means, folks, is that one of the provisions, including the Social Security Expansion Act, is a $200 monthly increase in benefits for new and existing recipients. It's separated from the annual cost of living, and that means that recipients would see an extra $2,400 a year on average. The bill, as currently written, would apply this increase to people who receive retirement, disability, and even survivors, but not those who receive SSI. According to experts, SSI is a needed-based program for people with limited income and resources. Experts explain that Social Security would use a more generous benefit formula to provide extra $2,000. The Social Security Administration typically computes benefits by averaging up to 35 years of a worker's earnings while taking inflation into account. So the bill would also make changes to Social Security, including an increase to the annual COLA, by adopting a new tool for measured inflation. It's called the CPI index for the elderly. And COLAs are currently calculated based on a percentage increase in the Consumer Price Index, an inflation gauge measured by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Not only does Social Security 2023 COLA seem to be outpacing inflation, but it's also the first time in a long time when the cost of Medicare Part B premiums are going down. So folks, seniors who are enrolled in Social Security and Medicare at the same time have their Part B premiums costs deducted from the benefits automatically. Most years, Medicare Part B eats into the COLAs and leaves seniors with less of a raise left over. And because Part B is getting more expensive, seniors in that boat should be able to keep up with their upcoming COLA in full. And that could really set them for some near-term financial stability. Also, according to a new poll that was published today, Joe Biden's approval rating sits at 44%, remaining generally consistent with other recent polling numbers by the president. A poll conducted by the Morning Consult found that Biden, with an approval rating of 44% compared to 53%, said they disapproved of Joe Biden as his job as president. And while the president Biden's approval rating remains underwater, the poll found that 47% of respondents surveyed said they had voted for the president, while another 43% said they voted for the other choice. So folks, this poll is a slight shift since October, when a Morning Consult survey found Joe Biden's approval rating at 43. It comes as CNN's survey earlier this month showed Biden with a 46% approval rating compared to late October, when his approval rating sat at 41%. Recent survey also suggests that the president has a slight bump in approval, said the Midterm. So, one thing that President Biden can do to increase his ratings is obviously send out stimulus payments.
Ukraine. 300 days since Putin launched an unprovoked, unjustified, all-out assault on the free people of Ukraine. 300 days of Ukrainian people showing Russia and the world their steel backbone, their love of country, and their unbreakable determination, and I emphasize unbreakable determination, to choose their own path. To Ukrainian people, I say to them all, you have demonstrated, you've shown your strong stand against aggression in the face of the imperial appetites of autocrats who wrongfully believe they might be able to make might right, and they're not able to do it. Thus far, they've stood alone, and you haven't stood alone. You have had significant help. We've never stand alone. You will never stand alone. When Ukraine's freedom was threatened, the American people, like generations of Americans before us, did not hesitate. The support from all across this country, Americans of every walk of life, Democrats and Republicans alike, had the resources and to rebound and resounding united way to provide unequivocal and unbending support for Ukraine. Because we understand in our bones that Ukraine's fight is part of something much bigger. The American people know that if we stand by in the face of such blatant attacks on liberty and democracy and the core principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity, the world would surely face worse consequences.
While legislatures in Maryland and Georgia temporarily paused the gasoline tax in their states, Iowa, Indiana, and Idaho have all slashed income taxes this year. The push to lower taxes comes as consumers grapple with the highest inflation in nearly 40 years. The government reported last week that the Consumer Price Index jumped 8.3% in April, far faster than economists expected. Consumer Price Index is a broad measure that tracks the price of goods including healthcare, rent, and gasoline. And according to multiple sources, on average, Americans are shelling out an extra $311 a month on goods and services just because of inflation. The final squeeze stems from the rising cost of a number of everyday goods, including cars, rent, food, and gasoline. Folks, we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI and SSDI. Stay tuned because you don't want to miss out on this, and here's the most important information that I want you to know. Now, stimulus checks are coming soon for one state. Illinois is pushing ahead with rumored plans to issue statewide stimulus checks in its latest budget. At the start of the month, Illinois State Senate Democrats proposed $1.8 billion in tax cuts that would include stimulus checks for nearly all of the residents. Illinois governor has promised tax relief in this year's budget. Part of that relief will come in the form of a check directly to your mailbox, unlike a stimulus check sent out by the federal government in the early stages of the crisis. Now, those who filed taxes independently in 2021 and made under $200,000 will be getting at least a $50 check in the mail. Joint filers who brought home less than $400,000 in 2021 will get a $100 check. The state will send individuals even more if they have dependents. This increases the total dollar amount by $100 for each independent. It caps at 3. However, that means the max amount of money an individual filer could get is $350. The governor has already signed the budget, meaning those checks are coming, and all of the data are determined by 2021 tax filings. Now, in a new report by the U.S. Census Bureau, the number of people living in poverty decreased when crisis stimulus payments were factored in. The official poverty measure, which is determined by the Census Bureau, indicated that 11.4% of Americans were living in poverty, an increase of 1 percentage point in 2020. The increase was the first after 5 consecutive years of decline. But when looking